Hey everybody, Cole here, aka Transspirit Indigo. I'm a soul having a human experience, and I am grateful to be here with you today. Thank you so much, everyone who has been subscribing, liking, commenting. Please make sure to subscribe if you haven't, and make sure to hit that bell notification so you're notified every time a new video comes up. All right, I'm going to get into the video now. I was very excited about a year and a half ago, I believe. It's been a while. We might even be pushing 2 years now, that I made a video talking about the possible correlations between being transgender and reincarnation. And today I wanted to revisit that with just more about reincarnation in a whole. And just kind of keeping the trans thing aside for a minute. Not that it's not worthy to be spoken about, but I want to talk a little bit about just the topic of reincarnation. Okay. All right, I'm rolling up my sleeves for this one. So if you haven't seen that video I spoke about, I'm going to stick it up there. There's actually two of them. I did a video about reincarnation and being transgender and a follow-up video after that. I was a little concerned. I did a follow-up video because I was a little concerned that maybe I was giving off too much of a negative vibe about my ideas of the connection between the two. And I just want to say that it's not that I believe that people are transgender as punishment. I think that somebody kind of like was saying something like that after I made it, and I was like, oh God, I hope I didn't come off like that, because that's not what I meant to do. I was just speaking about my own life and just wondering things, you know. But where I stand now on the whole thing is that I believe that we all are here under soul contracts. Now, a lot of my beliefs come from the teachings of Dolores Cannon, who is a quantum healing hypnosis technique therapist, QHHT. And she tapped into lots of people's subconscious minds, her clients, by undergoing hypnosis. And then she was able to speak to their higher selves about past lives and about the afterlife. So it's some very interesting stuff. And she talks about how we all have soul contracts, how we all agreed to be here at this time. Now, that would mean that I personally agreed to come back as transgender. Now, I know I said I was going to keep this strictly about reincarnation, but I just want to throw that in there. That means that I would have chose to come back this way if her teachings are correct, which again, I resonate with it. Reincarnation, there are a lot of different beliefs about how it works. I've heard people say that they believe that people live 13 lives. I've heard like 11, 12. I've heard like lots of different numbers. I've heard hundreds, I've heard thousands. Dolores Cannon said that you live like an infinite amount of, like you live, you're everyone. Like you're black, you're white, you're Asian, you're everything. You're everything. You're a dog, you're a cat, you're a blade of grass, you're an ant. You are literally everything. And you cannot really evolve until you are. And she said that everyone lives on different continents. So it's some very interesting stuff. And for me, I would say that I've probably lived a lot of lives. That's another thing I almost forgot. Don't forget that we have most likely lived other lives in other star systems, not just planet Earth. Yep. Okay, so I wanted to tell you real quick about my reincarnation story in case you haven't watched the last video. But simply put, I have been to a few different psychics over the past, it's been like 15 years now, and all of them mentioned the same past life. For me, I feel like there is a lot to be learned about this past life that they mention. And my intuition feels like it has a lot to do with this life, and that a lot of the issues that I deal with in this life probably have stuff to do with the last life. And I would not be opposed to seeing a QHHT therapist or go through that whole process. And yeah, so with that being said, story time. About 15 years ago, I went to a psychic medium I was, my early 20s, and I was not spiritual at the time at all. I wasn't religious, I wasn't spiritual. I was drinking heavily and in a pretty dang low vibrational space, and angry. I was very angry. And I went in to talk to her, and she told me that I was alive in medieval times. And the thing I didn't really care for about her was she's very money hungry. I went in for a palm reading, and then I paid her an extra like $10, I think, to it was like $10 or $20, probably 10, to hear something about my past life. And I think she had, like, if you gave her $60, she would give you a full reading. I kind of wish I would have done the reading at the time, but I could still get it done elsewhere with better vibes. But for $10, she just said you were alive during medieval times. When she told me that, I just kind of laughed it off at the time. I won't lie. Again, I was not spiritual. I wasn't into the stuff. I was raised in a really strict religion where any kind of esoteric stuff was considered witchcraft. So I had it embedded in my subconscious mind that most of this was phony baloney anyway. I didn't think it was phony. I just thought that she could have easily made that up. Like, sure, give me $10. Yeah, you were alive during the Renaissance. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't know what to think about it. So it always stuck in my mind, but then I just kind of let it go. Flash forward about, I guess it was like 12 years later, 11, I don't know, somewhere around there. I traveled 1,500 miles away from where I had this reading at in my hometown to Los Angeles. And I was visiting with a friend. We went to an open mic in North Hollywood. There was a palm reader there. Actually, she was a tarot reader, psychic medium. And she did a reading for me. And she said, you were alive in medieval times, right? And I was like, wait, what? She told me that I was a knight in medieval times, that I was on the front lines, and that I was the king's right-hand man, and that she told me that I was a Casanova, which I know it sounds like I'm being arrogant and like, oh, right-hand man, Casanova. But the thing was, I didn't take it so well because I think the way she was talking to me and looking at me in the energy, the term Casanova was a nice way to say that I had a lot of women. And that's not who I am in this life. Like, I've never been promiscuous. And I'm like all about monogamy. And so that was kind of weird. Then I thought about all the women that I had fallen in love with in this life and how most of them never really worked out, and they were usually identified as cisgender and heterosexual, and I identify that way, like, but I'm not, I'm trans, so it was like always this like brutal, like heart-wrenching thing. And I remember just thinking, man, this is so weird. And talking to other queer people later in life, they're like, oh, you're no special, you're no different than anyone else. You're a queer person that fell in love with a straight person. It happens every day. And yes, I do believe that it happens all the time. But there was something so familiar about like the handful of women in my lifetime that I've fallen in love with. Like, just like I've known them forever. So I do wonder. I was never told by a psychic that any of these ladies that I've loved in this time have any correlation to my past life, but that's kind of the idea of the past life. Or the people that you care about that are in your life they're like your soul pod. They've been with you in many lives, and everybody plays different roles. That's another thing with reincarnation. Like, your mom in this life could have been your brother in a past life. Like, everybody plays different roles, and we're just working through karma. And the whole idea is to free ourselves from karma. So we need to free ourselves from fear, anger, shame, guilt, resentment, all that kind of stuff we let go of to release karma. So I went to that lady, and the next day I went to one more psychic medium because I was on vacation at the time, and I really wanted to see what someone else had to say. Me and my friend went to, I believe we were at Venice Beach that day, and there was a palm reader. It was pretty magical because when I first sat down with her, she took my hand and she said, "You're transgender." And that just blew my mind because, I mean, there's no way she could have really known that And as you guys know, I'm not on testosterone or anything that would maybe show that I'm transitioning. So that was pretty wild, again, that she said that. And then she said, "You were a knight in medieval times." Y'all, I just, like I said in that last video about reincarnation, it just blew my mind. It blew my mind, and it still blows my mind. And then there were all these other things that started to come to the surface, and I was like, whoa. Like, I remember playing with a costume for a night as a kid and feeling just like really at home in it, you know, like I remember gravitating toward it. And all the years that I worked in kitchens, I remember feeling so familiar with these large chef knives that I was using. Like, just, I spent all day with the knives and it felt very at home, which is odd for me because in this lifetime, I'm not interested in weapons. I'm not interested in any of that. I liked the knives because I was cooking with them and that I was interested in. But something felt so familiar that was just kind of odd with using knives every day. Just want to throw that out there. Not that knights were using knives, they're using swords, but still, it's a sharp bladed object in my hand. So it was familiar. One other last thing I want to share with you is it was a very strange memory as a child, and I'd also like to point out that a lot of the answers that we seek, a lot of stuff has come up in our childhood because we're not as cynical yet. You know, a lot of children can see spirits and apparitions and talk with angels and guides a lot easier than adults can because they're still in that whimsical, you know, phase where they haven't been as jaded by the world. They're in the midst of being programmed, but hopefully you know all this and you're making sure your child isn't being negatively programmed. I digress. I have this memory of being sometime before the age of 10, and I remember seeing, like on a movie or TV or something, battle scenes, like Civil War style, like, well, like knights too, how the one line, yeah, one, this line and this line, they line up and then they just kind of go toward each other and you either live or you die. Right? We've all seen it. Braveheart, Civil Wars, whatever. So obviously I'm not a war buff or a weapon buff. I remember thinking as a young child, and I quote, "I'm so thankful that I don't have to do that in this life." What kind of young child thinks that? Like, it's kind of weird, right? I remember having that thought of like, I was so thankful that I didn't have to get in one of those lines and fight. Why would I think that? I was born in 1984 in St. Louis, Missouri, in the United States. That why would I even think that? Plus, I was born in a time where if I did enlist in the military, it would be guns, and people don't line up. You know what I mean? It's like, well, maybe they do. Again, I don't know anything about it. But you know what I mean. They're not lining up with swords or something to where they're just like, you know. So that was very odd that I had that thought. After finding out about this most recent past life, it wasn't odd anymore. It made complete sense. To top it all off, it gave me the goosebumps in a good kind of way, but it was still goosebumps. I found some photographs from a trip to Disney World at 8 years old, and I want to share this with you guys and gals and everyone in between. But I remember going through some shop and seeing a statue of a knight, 8 years old. And I remember asking my parents to take a picture of me with the knight. I was so excited about this knight. And in the pictures, I'm all, you know, and I'm all looking up to him like, and I forgot those pictures existed. Not long after I had these readings and was told about this past life, I was visiting my parents or something, and I'm going through the photo albums, and I find these photos, and I just, oh my goodness, you know, it was a trip. It was wild. So I think I'm gonna do some QHHT someday. I think I'm gonna have that done. I think that there are lots of things that I could heal about that life. I have had some major accidents in this life. Real quick thing about me you might not know is my left arm is pretty much sewed back together. Let's see if I can get it. You see that? See that scar? Yep, you see it. So I was in this gnarly scooter accident. Actually, two different ones. The first one, I hit this giant pothole that I couldn't see coming up a hill, and I landed on my elbow, and part of my elbow was pretty much shattered, and it's rounded off. It doesn't come to a point on my left arm. So this left part of me stitched back together. A few years later, I get hit by a van who ran a red light, and my left leg, the bone shatters. There's a metal rod in there. It's stitched back together. So the left side of my body is like stitched back together. It got me to thinking, how did I die in this most recent past life? I almost started to wonder, like, was I sliced up? You know, like, did somebody, I can't help but wonder. Now, this is just me. I would not be surprised if I come back later on after QHHT, which honestly won't be a while. It'll be a while from now. But I wouldn't be surprised if I make a video years down the line telling you that I was killed in my most recent past life by being my arm and leg being sliced off and bleeding out. That's just like something in my intuition, because they say that a lot of times injuries in your life can be representative of injuries from a past life, or the way you died, or you could be afraid of water because you drowned in your past life. There's just all these things. So I, especially being a knight, I mean, I might have died of old age and might not have died in battle. But the fact that I've been in all these funky accidents in this life, like freak accidents, and, you know, like I'm all stitched back together, it's just kind of weird. Makes me wonder. This makes me wonder. Doesn't really change anything about what's going on with me. Like my arm still, even if that was true, my arm would still be the way it is. But maybe not. I don't know. If you check out Louise Hay, you can certainly see that we have the ability to heal ourselves. So who knows? Who knows? Anything's possible, I believe, at this point. But I would love to hear your comments about this, what you think about this, and do you know anything about any of your past lives? Because I'm telling you about this past life as a medieval knight, but that's just one past life. That's just one. And I am thinking that there's some work that needs to be done in healing because they kept bringing that one specific life back up. Do you have multiple lives that you know about, or something that you have a hunch might have happened? Please drop them in the comment section below. I would love to read about that. And I would love to know your opinions on reincarnation. I was raised Catholic, and I was told that reincarnation is not real, and it's bad, and all that kind of stuff. I don't believe that anymore, obviously. I do believe in reincarnation. And, yeah. I don't know what else. What else do we got here today? It was fun to talk to you all about this. I love this subject. So again, if you have any comments or anything you want to put into this, please leave it below and let's talk about this. It's fun, right? It's fun to think about all this kind of stuff. At least it is for me. So until next time, I hope you have a great day or night wherever you're at. Much love and light, everybody. Don't forget to hit that bell notification for more videos. Subscribe, like. I appreciate all the love and support. Thank you.